like that in Saudi Arabia. I don't know. I find it really, really distasteful to this very point. I think this is one of those things where I think in order to actually stop this, because I don't predict there being a governmental reason why the WWE can't go to Saudi Arabia. I think you've got to target them where it's going to hurt them the most, and that's in their pocketbooks. Of course, they have a bunch of money on the table with this Saudi deal, but you see a situation like John Oliver, dedicating the sort of major portion of his show to talk about the fact that WWE is in this relationship with the Saudi government. That if I'm a sponsor of the WWE, I'm going to be concerned about my product, at least for the moment, my product being associated with the WWE going over to Saudi Arabia. There was former WWE champion, sometimes Fox News analyst, John Layfield, formerly known as John Bradshaw Layfield, was on Fox. This was one of those things that was sort of floating around. He was saying that the WWE should go to Saudi Arabia. I think that's for the best. That isolating the regime, isolating a country like Saudi Arabia, just will lead to another Cuba situation. He also talked about how the WWE went over to the Middle East many times during his tenure with the company to perform tribute to the troops. They do sort of a yearly trip, or they did a yearly trip over to where U.S. troops are stationed, in terms of giving them a little show at the holiday time of year, kind of a Bob Hope type feel. I mean, kind of the difference there, JBL, is that you were going over to U.S. bases for that. The difference between Saudi Arabia and Cuba is that a normalization of relationship is with the move to getting the Cuban people more freedoms, move to improving the lives of Cubans. What this trip is for the WWE going over to Saudi Arabia is to legitimize Saudi Arabia in the minds of people around the world without them having to do the hard work of actually changing in any real significant way. I think I mentioned earlier on in the show that there was a really great piece about how Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, is his story as it's being told, up until the Jamal Khashoggi thing. His story as it's been told is very, very similar to how King Saud's story was told. Now, other members of the Saudi royal family's stories have been told, that they're presented as these liberal reformers, but when realistically they don't actually do anything. And it was a real fascinating look at, it's just the way for governments in more liberal democracies and places that value human rights are able to sort of swallow dealing with this regime. I'm not going to say that there's going to be real change within any of our lifetimes over in Saudi Arabia. I don't know that that's the case. I'm not smart enough to know whether or not that's the case. I'm not smart enough necessarily to know what the right thing to do is. There's a lot of money tied up in dealing with the Saudis on a governmental level, and completely shutting them off from the world does run the risk of creating another sort of rogue nation, and that's not good either. What I can say is that going over to Saudi Arabia with something that is sort of associated with Americana in a big way, and lending credence to the Saudi Arabian government and basically verbally filleting them, I can't picture a way in which that's the right thing to do. I can't imagine a way that that's the right thing to do. It's financially smart, don't get me wrong, I understand that, but it just does not make sense to me from a moral standpoint to go over to Saudi Arabia and to build up this regime that realistically is still awful towards women, still awful towards homosexuals, still awful in terms of their human rights abuses, and you know this was a story that I read this week. So WWE is planning for the Crown Jewel event a World Cup. Now, a lot of people were making fun of this World Cup because it's like a single elimination tournament sort of deal. They're making fun of it because all of the competitors who made it to the World Cup are all Americans, and like everybody's like, ha ha ha. It's kind of like, you know, it's not much of a World Cup, WWE. The reason why they were asked to do this is that because Qatar has the fucking World Cup and they're enemies with Qatar right now, they wanted to have their own. Like, it's ludicrous. It's just like it's absolutely mind-boggling that that a company like the WWE is allowing themselves to be used in this way for a couple of extra dollars, and I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. This feels like short-term gain for long-term pain, because at the end of the day, I look at this company a different way than I did before. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on it. We're gonna wrap up the show right here. Call it a day on this episode of the John Dulong Show. But before I get into the whole exit part of the show, again, just want to shout out one last time that I will be at Mount Con this coming Wednesday, October 24th. Mount St. Vincent University, Vinny's Pub. The cost is free. The time is 6 to 9 p.m., October 24th. Discussion table with yours truly about everything surrounding podcasts. So please come on out if you can. And as I said, that's going to do it for this episode of the John Dulong Show. This show is produced by me with music from Mo Plays Here. You can check them out at loyaltyfreakmusic.com. Also art by Skylar Greencorn, who you can check out at artstation.com/sgreencorn. You can follow me on social media at Jeopardy, JIBERDY, and follow the show on Facebook.com/The John Dulong Show. You can always email into the show, johndulong@gmail.com, and find us in all the normal podcast places. That's Spotify, that's Google Play, that's iTunes, you know, the normal places. Of course, you can always go over to johndulong.com. But if you could, just rate and review wherever you go, as that helps get more folks listening to the show. If you want to support the show, you can go over to johndulong.com/Patreon, where you can get a couple of rewards for just as little as $1. Another great way that you can help out is to tell a friend about the show, get the word out. Of course, make sure that you tune in every single Monday for your weekly dose of the Monday morning nonsense. Feels good to say that again. And again, this Wednesday, I know I keep on saying it, but this is like the biggest event that I've ever done in surrounding the show. Pretty crazy. Hope to see some familiar faces out there for that. I'm looking forward to it myself. Anyhow, we're coming in on the end of the show here. I want to thank you again so much for listening every single week to the John Dulong Show. And for John Dulong, I'm John Dulong. And remember that some people just have a way with words, and other people do not that. Thanks. I genuinely love things like this on the old internet. Forget astrology. The tagline of the #1 movie at the box office the day you were born. That determines your fate from now on. For yours truly, it's he's crude, he's crass, he's family. The tagline to Uncle Buck. And that feels a little bit upsettingly correct. Is it too late in the episode for an episode title? I think I'm gonna do that. And we'll go with it from there. It's not like the titles are ever really that linked to what I've said on the show. It's just usually one of the topics. I suppose the other topic for this show would be like John's real upset about idiots on social media and also the Saudis. I don't know. That doesn't feel like a snappy title. He's crude, he's crass, he's family. That does. We're going to go with it. And I'm going to go now. Bye!